Our next speaker, businessman, former Brexit Party MEP, who's built a reputation for fearless truth-telling and principled opposition to establishment groupthink. With decades of experience in business and finance, he brings real-world credibility to politics, unafraid to call out economic mismanagement, weak leadership, and the steady erosion of British sovereignty. Direct, uncompromising, razor-sharp and principled, the advanced UK leader and trailblazer, HABIB.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that overly flattering introduction. And thank you all very much for giving up your Saturday afternoon to hear me speak. I never thought when I left university that one day I'd found a political party and be its leader. I think the thought would have horrified me back in 1987. But yet here I am, and here you are. And the fact that I'm here, and the fact that you're here, is, I think, testament to the great concern we all have about the state of our country and the direction of its travel. We can almost say that we're not a country anymore, because, as you know, we have a border down the Irish Sea between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's a bugbear of mine, not because I'm obsessed with Northern Ireland, but I'm obsessed with the notion that our political class would be prepared to set aside part of the United Kingdom in order to pursue a kind of bureaucratic, technocratic taking of the knee to what I call the supranational order. We gave up Northern Ireland without a single shot being fired, without any democratic mandate to do it. In fact, the democratic mandate that was given to the government in 2016 was for us to leave the European Union, not for us to leave part of our country behind in the European Union. And so the first principle for which Advanced UK stands is the nation-state of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. In all its parts and for all its people. We stand for we often talk about our Christian cultural roots. What we don't talk about is our Christian constitutional roots. Culture is downstream of the law. We were a Christian country, constitutionally. The reason the bishops sit in the House of Lords is because they represent the church in the supreme body of the United Kingdom, the law-making, adjudicating Christian body of the United Kingdom. The reason King Charles is the head of the Church of England is because we're constitutionally a Christian country. Yet, today our Christianity is trampled on, and Starmer wishes to remove the bishopric. I don't know if you're aware of this. One of the things that he declared in the King's Speech when he, opening of Parliament last year, was that the bishopric are going to be removed from the House of Lords. And the reason he wants to remove the bishopric is because that would be the end of our Christian constitution. So the very nation-state of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland doesn't exist because we've got a border, and our constitutional Christian roots are being set aside. We have a political class that does not believe in this country and where it came from. It has extreme ideologies, some of which Howard touched on, net zero in particular, but it has extreme ideologies which stand against the welfare and betterment of the United Kingdom and its people. So as basic as it might sound, and as obvious as it might sound, I was compelled to draft the first of our 4 component the components of our mission statement to be a declaration in favour of our country and our Christian constitution. The second component of the 4 components of our mission statement is freedom. Of course, at the heart of freedom is freedom of speech, and we have seen our ability to speak freely being increasingly challenged and shut down. And of course this should be no surprise to you, because if the state is perpetrating and propagating extreme ideologies which are against our interests, the only way that they're going to shut us up is by curtailing free speech. The only way they can control us and deliver those assaulting ideologies is by shutting us up. So we shouldn't be surprised by the attack on free speech. We shouldn't be surprised about Starmer getting up after the Southport protests without any empirical evidence whatsoever, declaring all those who protested for fear of their own communities and what was happening through mass migration and mass illegal migration, categorising everyone as far right. I want to return to the theme of right and left because I think it's a critical issue to reveal. But freedom of speech in this country is being shut down. And the second component, therefore, is that we will stand unashamedly for the principle of freedom of speech. We will stand for the freedom to do as we wish with a minimalist state so that we can go about our daily lives, running our lives the way we want to do it. And the other thing that I'll just briefly mention here is that what's fundamental to being British is actually the notion that you can do what you wish to do, unless there's a law that expressly prohibits you from doing it. That is the opposite of the European model. The reason we're a superior country to any European country, I say that proudly, the reason we're a superior country, and the reason we had such a fantastic empire, which came about not by design, but came about by accident, actually, over a period of hundreds of years, our empire was created, was because we had freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom to do what we wish to do. We were the entrepreneurs, the pioneers of the world. The agrarian revolution started in the United Kingdom. The abolition of slavery at the peak of our power happened in the United Kingdom. The Industrial Revolution happened in the United Kingdom. Our law, which was so brilliantly crafted that it is still used as the bedrock for international trade, was all born out of the United Kingdom. All of that, all our scientific discoveries, our great philosophers, our great scientists, our economic progression, our empire, all of that came from freedom of speech. We would have had none of it without freedom of speech and the freedom of action that follows it. And so we stand for freedom of speech as our second component, and we stand against indoctrination. We stand against taking the knee to the extreme ideologies that are being pursued by government. And the third component of our 4 components is democracy. And again, you would think that as elected representatives of the British people, every political party would stand for democracy, but they don't. I've mentioned the vote in 2016. The biggest democratic mandate that a government ever had, 17.4 million people voted to leave the supranational order. And in our case, in 2016, that was the European Union. And we've had constitutional turmoil ever since. It's because the government stands against the people. There's no legitimacy in our parliament at the moment because those who sit in parliament stand against the wishes of the people. Brexit has not been delivered. Who thinks Brexit's been delivered? If Brexit has been delivered, I wouldn't be here. And it's as simple as that. You know, there are many, many other things that Advance wishes to do beyond Brexit. But a fundamental first thing that we have to achieve as a country, before we will settle ourselves, before our democracy will be legitimised, is leaving the European Union, taking Northern Ireland back into the United Kingdom. And so Again, as remarkable as it might, unremarkable as it might sound, Advance UK stands for democracy, and it stands against the supranational order, the UN, the European Union, the World Health Organization, and so on and so forth. All of which were pretty good bodies for national cooperation when they were founded, but they've all now hijacked our democracy. We are being run by international law. How often do you hear it said that we can't do this, that, and the other in the United Kingdom, including enforcing our borders, because it breaches international law? Well, if international law stands against the interests of the United Kingdom, I'm afraid it's international law that needs to be kicked out. And we stand against the bureaucratic class. We stand against civil servants who won't do what their elected ministers tell them to do. We will debug all the regulatory bodies, these black boxes of unaccountable bureaucrats who perpetrate, again, these extreme ideologies as if they're settled morally correct mechanisms by which we should be governed. We will debug them. It's not for Ofcom to tell us what we can and can't think and say. It's not for the Electoral Commission to determine how we fight our politics. There should be simply laws that prohibit inciting violence, and that's all you need as far as free speech is concerned, and there should be laws about electoral fraud and so on. We don't need regulatory bodies interfering in our day-to-day business. This is all an infection from the from forces, supranational forces, ideologically hijacked forces. These are all an infection from them, used to control us, to dumb our democracy down. So we are going to remove those. And then the fourth component for which Advance UK stands for, and again, you will all be so acutely aware of how this has been hijacked, is equality under the law. When you look at the Old Bailey, what you see is Lady Justice blindfolded. And Lady Justice is blindfolded for a good reason, because justice has to be dispensed blindly. It must not be prejudiced based on who you are, what your skin colour is, what your belief systems are, or where you come from, or what your social background is. If you commit a crime, you have to be taken to task, and then you must suffer the just punishment for that crime. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Asian, whatever. And we've seen, again, in the pursuit of these extreme ideologies, and I'm specifically referring to mass migration coupled with the Equalities Act and progressive discrimination in favour of minorities, we've seen our criminal justice system dismantled. It bothers me beyond belief when politicians get up and say, and there are some that Howard referred to that do the same thing, get up and say that we're going to solve the criminal justice issues by putting another 20,000 policemen on the streets. How the hell is that going to solve anything if those policemen don't know what it is they're meant to be doing? They're policing your tweets. They're policing, well, that's what they're doing. They're policing your tweets. They're policing people who toot their horn as they go past the St. George's flag. Did you see that? Someone got pulled over by the police and questioned over the support of the St. George's flag. So we need a root and branch restoration. It's not reform. It's restoration of the United Kingdom. We need a restoration of our Houses of Parliament. We need an abolition of the Supreme Court. We need to reacquaint ourselves with our constitutional Christian roots, as distinct from our cultural Christian roots. We need to make way for freedom of speech, and that doesn't mean passing new laws for freedom of speech. It means removing all the laws that have been put in place over the last 30 years which prohibit freedom of speech. I'm old enough. I'm old enough to remember, actually, that I had no qualms as a young man saying what I wanted to say. I could say really quite offensive things, not that I'm not minded to just go around offending people, but you could have really robust debates. And we had this at university and so on, but if we don't have debates at university, we're all told that black lives matter more than white lives, or that diversity, equity and inclusion is the way forward, that ethnic minorities need a protected blanket, where all white people are racist because, you know, if they don't recognise it, they're basically doing down all ethnic minorities, that if you're white and you're a child, this is what some of our children are taught at school, that if you're white, you are essentially privileged and you should be ashamed of yourself, that your forefathers are all slave traders and so on and so forth. All of this has to be set aside. We need a complete, as I say, restoration of the country. And there can be no progression for the United Kingdom. There can be no United Kingdom without first a restoration. And that is what we will do on our first few days in government if Advance UK has the good fortune of being part of a government. We will set about restoring the UK. And the great advantage of that agenda is that you don't have to be that clever. All you have to do is identify every law that these bastards have passed in the last 30 years. And repeal them. And that's really not all that challenging. And while we're at it, if the civil service doesn't play ball, we'll pass a new law which prohibits them from being able to prevent what we wish to do in government. So that is Advance UK. We've had enough of political expediency governing this country. The British people don't want political expediency. The British people who voted to leave the European Union in 2016 saw the supranational order for what it is. They stood on a principle that it doesn't matter whether there's going to be some economic damage, but we recognise as a country we can't move forward unless we first leave the European Union. The British people are there. Any political party that thinks it needs to pivot away from that belief in order to garner support with the electorate to get into office, and then I promise once we get into office we'll do all the right things, even though we've said all the wrong things in order to get there. They are wrong. They're wrong because actually it's not the way the next election is going to be won. The next election is not going to be won from the middle ground. I don't care what leaders of other parties say, it's not going to be won from the middle ground. And it's not going to be won from the left or the right. There's no such thing as left or right anymore. There are those who believe in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, its democracy, freedom of speech and equality under the law, that's us. And there are those who don't believe in it. And the vast majority are them. The vast majority of the political class are on that side. So we are not right-wing, we're simply pro this country. And the next government of this country, I can tell you this without a shadow of a doubt, the next government of this country will be a pro-British government. Starmer will be out. Starmer will be out, and unless the Conservatives have some kind of miraculous recovery of their conservatism, they too will be out. And by a process of elimination, you end up pretty quickly with an Advance UK government. I skipped over one party there. But if you do a poll, and there have been polls done, of none of the above, and then the other main parties, none of the above always wins. And that should inform you about where the British people's mind is and how wrong it is to fight from the middle ground, how wrong it is to sacrifice your... It's wrong anyway, by the way, in life, ever, to sacrifice your principles in the pursuit of power. I mean, how the hell can you improve the lot of your country if you're prepared to sacrifice your principles in the pursuit of power? Those two things absolutely if you do that, you undermine yourself before you even got off the starting blocks. And the country is in deep doo-doo at the moment. We need principled people. We need serious principled politics. And yes, Advance UK will be a populist party. I seek to be popular. We need everyone's vote, including that lot's vote, because that lot is our lot. We are that lot. We will be populist. I mean, how the devil do you get the popular vote if you're not populist? But we will be serious. We will put together a party, and I'm just going to talk about the structure. We're going to put together a party which unashamedly identifies the problems, unashamedly identifies the root causes of those problems, and then provides the solution for them. It's not good enough to get up and bang the drum in isolation about all the ills that have been perpetrated against us, but not offer up solutions. That is childish. It doesn't get us anywhere. We've got to make that next step, and that's what I'm seeking to do through Advance UK. And that's partly why we've set up the college. I'm going to talk about the structure of the party now, if I may. There are basically 3 or 4 parts to the party. It is a company limited by guarantee, so it's a non-profit company. It's the suitable structure for a party that, for an entity that's going to be owned by its members. A company limited by guarantee. Anyone is free to join as a member. Anyone, as long as you're a British citizen and on the electoral roll, and you're not a member of another party. And by the way, anyone who thinks they're a member of Reform is actually a subscriber. So if you are technically a member of Reform, you can join Advance UK. But we are not going to police our membership. How could we stand for freedom to act as you wish, and freedom of speech, if we say so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so is not welcome to join the party? How is that consistent with democracy? How can we say we believe in the democracy of the United Kingdom, but by the way, X, Y, and Z can't join our party? That's not democracy. And isn't it politically stupid to alienate part of the electorate? Just leaving aside all the principles for a moment, isn't it stupid to get up and say, well, we believe in democracy, we're going to save the United Kingdom, blah, 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 but actually 5 million people, you don't want your vote. I want everyone's vote for Advance UK. And I want to win that vote, not through political expediency, not feeding the people what I think they want to hear. We wish to win that vote by setting out what we believe in and carrying the people with us. That's how we're going to do it. So the membership, anyone can join as a member. And when you join as a member, what you're doing is endorsing Advance UK. You're endorsing our mission statement, and in due course, when we form policies, you will endorse those policies. That's a matter of fact. If you don't like our mission statement or you don't like our policies, you're free to resign. But we are not going to police our membership and say we agree with their views. We don't need to, at Advance UK, agree with every view our membership holds. They can hold different views, and I hope they will, and I hope they'll challenge us. That's the membership. And by the way, the members, by a simple majority, will be able to remove the entire board of directors of the party if they wish to at any time. That is the ultimate in democratic mandate. But to make sure the party and its executive stays on the straight and narrow, that it sticks to its mission statement, and that it has the intellectual ballast required to find the solutions that will save this country and make it an independent, proud, prosperous United Kingdom again, I have created this thing, we've constructed this thing called a college, which will number between 50 and 100 people. They will all come from the membership, and anyone is free to apply to join the college. And they will perform a number of functions. They will, by a simple majority, be able to remove the leader. That's me, which is what I meant earlier when I said they can give me a kick in the backside. That would be a proverbially pretty big kick. But they can remove the leader, and they will be responsible for appointing the leader as well. And it'll then be up to the leadership to appoint the executives within the party. But no member of the college can be an executive in the party. No member of the college can be in the pay of the party. So bad luck, Howard, you're not getting a wage. No member of the college can be paid by the party, and no member of the college can hold an elected role. And that's by design as well, because I don't want the leadership of the party to be able to lean on the college. So much of what I've seen in politics is what I call the power of patronage. You're the leader of a party, so you can give peerages, you can give knighthoods, and you get opposition effectively to kowtow to you, and you control people by promising this, that, and the other. I don't want that in Advance UK. I want the college to be incapable of being corrupted by the leadership, so that the college will speak freely against the leader if the leader is talking nonsense. And they will act as the heart, soul, and conscience of the party, making sure we stay on the straight and narrow. That's the college. And the college will come up for re-election, and the members, you the members, will be able to remove them. 10% of the college will come up for re-election every year, starting in 5 years' time, once the party's got going. Starting in 5 years' time, 10% of the college will come up for re-election every year, and they will have to gain your votes to be returned as members of college. And as I say, any one of you can make an application to join the college, and you too will be voted on in that way in the future. Right now there's a panel that's interviewing and will take members on into the college. And then the penultimate part of the party is the leadership and the executive and the team. We haven't got to setting that team up in a big way. We have a treasurer of the party, and we have a national nominating officer, and we have a leader, and we have lots of volunteers who are working their socks off already day and night, trying to get the party on the map. But the executive is fledgling, and that's deliberate too, because I want to get, as you know, to this self-imposed hurdle of 30,000 members, and to get a quorum of college members together before we apply to the Electoral Commission to get our registration as a political party. And the reason I want to do that is partly to make sure that my assessment that the British people want a new party is correct. I want to have that validated by the British people. I want them to tell me that even though I believe it's correct, that they too agree. And 30,000 members is what Reform had at the beginning of the 2024 general election. So I know with my own empirical experience that we can fight a general election pretty competently if we get to 30,000 members. And so that's why I've set this hurdle of 30,000 members. It also means that by the time we get there, we'll have £300,000. We've already got over 300,000, by the way, raised. And at that point, and again, this is a differentiator with other political parties, I will donate £100,000 to the party as well. And I want everyone in the United Kingdom to know that I'm not in this for personal political advancement or personal financial gain. No, I stand shoulder to shoulder with the members of the party and with the British people. And that's why I think it's important I put money in. And I said something to Floss actually on the way here. I asked Floss to buy her own train ticket. I know that was mean, wasn't it? I asked Floss to buy her own train ticket because Floss rightly should be able to be, reimbursed by the party. But I am not going to take a penny out of the party for the reimbursement of any of my expenses or for any reason whatsoever. If Ben Habib needs to do something for the party, he will do it on his own dime. And that's why we've done all of that. And I'm just going to tell you a little story. I was on GB News. I'm not on GB News much nowadays, which means I must be doing something right, I suppose. But I was on GB News with Nana Akua in January, and Errol Musk came on. He comes on GB News once in a while, and Nana said, "Wouldn't it be nice if we could get Elon on after Errol?" So I said, "Well, look, he follows me on X. I'll DM him, and I'll ask him if he's able to come on after his father." And I thought it was a long shot. He'd retweeted some of my stuff, and I'd retweeted some of his, obviously. But I never thought he would respond. And so I texted him while I was in the studios with Nana, and he texted me straight back. And he said, "I can't come on this afternoon because I'm taking my children to the flicks. But can we have a chat this evening?" So I thought, "Oh my goodness, okay, we'll have a chat." So I had a 20-minute conversation with Elon Musk that night on X. You can actually talk to people through X. It's got a telephone function. Anyway, I found him to be, I don't know what you think of Elon Musk, but this was about the time when he said Farage wasn't fit to lead reform. And I found Elon to be absolutely in tune with everything I believed in. He believed, as I do, that Western civilization faces its existence is threatened, and it faces an existential threat. He believes that the United Kingdom is falling faster than any other country in Europe, which is bizarre when you think they've got the EU, and we're falling faster than any other country in Europe. And he believed that reform wasn't the answer under Farage, and I agreed with that too. And then he said to me, "Ben, you should start a new party." And I said, "Elon, you've got no idea, mate. It's not easy starting a new party in the United Kingdom. People either vote Tory or Labour. It was a devil's own job to get reform on the map. How the hell could I possibly get another political party moving?" And he said, "Well, I can't see many other options." And that kind of stuck in my head. And I mean, I knew a new political force was needed, but I didn't believe there was the possibility of creating one. And then, of course, Rupert Lowe happened. And I said to Rupert, I was on holiday at the time, and I called him from holiday, and I said, I've been talking a bit to him in the run-up to him being thrown out. And I said, "Look, I think we should set up a new party, Rupert. What do you reckon?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely right. We've got to deliver on the promises that you and I, Ben, made to the British people when we stood with reform. We've got to deliver on that. It's a matter of principle." He's someone else who is not taking his MP salary. And that's, it says something. I know people can rubbish it and say, "Well, he's a millionaire, blah, blah, blah." But I tell you, most people wouldn't turn down £93,000 per annum. And anyway, he said we should do it. And the idea of Advance UK was actually crafted around that conversation. That's where it came from, Elon Musk and my conversation, and then 7th of March, I spoke to Rupert, and it came out of that. And Rupert was always going to be the leader of this party. I am what you might call the runner-up in a sense, because I wanted Rupert to lead the party. I didn't want to lead a political party. It's not something I've been, aspiring to, as I say. If someone had said this to me when I left university, I would have been horrified by the position I now hold. But anyway, somewhere through between March and June, Rupert decided that actually he wanted to lead a movement, a cross-party movement. And as I said, I'll just say this is a bit of a joke, it's being filmed, but I've said this live on media. The only movement I'm interested in is the movement I get first thing in the morning after a coffee. And, which is perhaps the most satisfying movement we ever experience in our lives. But leaving that aside, sorry, I've really lowered the tone. Leaving that aside, Advance UK is here. I am leading Advance UK. I will lead it to the best of my ability. We will do the best we can to challenge the main political parties. I think we are going to surprise ourselves, because we are on the right side of the debate. And I don't mean the right-wing side of the debate. We are on the correct side of the debate. And we've gone, in a matter of weeks, from no members to over 20,000, and we will hit our 30,000 in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm pretty confident of that. By the middle of September, we would have hit our 30,000. Yeah, we are well over 20,000. Yeah, well over 22,000, okay. Which is also over 20,000. And we would have hit our 30,000. Just to put that into context, that is, I'm not having a go at any other political, but the Social Democrats, who've been in existence for 40 years, have 5,000 members. UKIP, I believe, has 3,000 members. So there's a real desire out there for change. And we, I think, will surprise on the upside. I see some people tweeting on X or posting on X that, you know, Advance UK is polling at nil. Well, there's a reason we're polling at nil, is because we're not a political party yet. We're not included in the polls. But I think we're going to surprise everyone. We are going to succeed. We're going to take a substantial share of the polling, and we are going to set ourselves up as a very serious political force for the 2028, if it comes in 2028, or more probably the 2029 general election. And we will be the agent that delivers that pro-British government. Without us, you will not get a pro-British government in this country. We are needed, and we will be that agent, and we will make sure it happens.